Just seen the Labour candidate nod his head, so it looks as if we may have the returning officer announcing when he is going to call this declaration. Now, John and Natasha, there's the Conservative candidate, I think there, Steve Tuckwell, just in the background, obviously wearing the blue rosette. Interesting recount here. It didn't take long, obviously, to go through the votes, but here we are in recount territory.
Yeah, it doesn't look particularly optimistic for Labour. As I said just now, in the first count, it appears that they were about 400 votes behind. Obviously, it's been very close. It's possible a recount would have got a different result, but 400 votes, it seems quite likely that's not going to change that much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Could I have all the candidates, please, that are in the room onto the stage here? If you'd like to come down this way and up onto the stage for...
We must not, Chris. Or a bucket, or a bin, I think it is, isn't it? All the candidates gathering there. But it's going to take a while to herd 17 candidates onto the stage to give the result, because they'll be read out in alphabetical order, but here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, I, Lloyd White, being the acting returning officer for the election of a Member of Parliament for the Uxbridge and South Ruislip constituency, do hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate at the said election is as follows. Bakish, Blaise Maxime Pascal, Liberal Democrats, 526. Beales, Danny Boy, Labour Party, 13,470, 13470. Bell, Cameron Swaran, Independent, 91. Corbyn, Piers, Let London Live, 101. Darwood, Thomas Faithful, commonly known as 77 Joseph, Independent, 8. Fox, Lawrence, the Reclaim Party, 714, 714. Gardner, Stephen Ritchie, commonly known as Steve Gardner, Social Democratic Party, 248. Gemmell, Edmund John, commonly known as Ed Gemmell, Climate Party, 49. Green, Sarah Charmian, Green Party, 893. Hamilton, Kingsley, Julian Duncan, commonly known as Kingsley Hamilton, anti-ULEZ, Independent, 208. Harvey, Jonathan David, commonly known as Count Binface Party, 190, 190. Hewison, Richard John Howard, Rejoin EU, 105. Hope Allen, commonly known as Howling Lord Hope, official Monster Raving Loony Party, 32. Ntefon and Enfant Udoka, Christian People's Alliance, 78. 4. Leo Samuel, commonly known as No ULEZ Leo 4, Independent, 186. Sutton, Rebecca Jane, commonly known as Rebecca Jane, UKIP, People Not Politics, 61. Tuckwell Stephen, commonly known as Steve Tuckwell, the Conservative Party candidate, 13,965.
So the Conservatives have held Uxbridge and South Ruislip. There was an expectation that Danny Beales, the Labour candidate, would be victorious. It was very tight. 13,470 votes for Danny Beales, the Labour candidate. 13,965 for Steve Tuckwell. And here he comes to give his victory speech.
OK. Wow. That's all I've got to say. So first things I would like to say is thank you to the returning officer. and to the fantastic team here in the London Borough of Hillingdon who have been working incredibly hard on today's polling day, and for the many people that are here this evening who have been counting for late into the morning this morning. So a big thank you to those. I'd also like to pay tribute to the team at CCHQ. I can't name everybody, but you know who I'm talking to. They've been fantastic, they've supported me, and it's been a great honour to work with the CCHQ team. I'd also like to pay tribute to my fellow councillors, the local supporters and activists here in Hillingdon, and a special mention to the Association Chairman Richard Mills. I'd also like to pay tribute to the Leader of the Council, Ian Edwards, and also neighbouring Association Chairman Peter Smallwood. My final thank you is to my darling wife Rachel, who has supported me through this campaign. So, this message from the Uxbridge and South Ruislip residents is clear. Sadiq Khan has lost Labour this election in his... And we know that it was his damaging and costly ULEZ policy that lost them this election. I'm humbled and proud to be elected as the MP for the area in which I was born, raised and built a family in, and to represent my home is a huge honour. The pundits expected Labour to win big here, but our community came together, and I am thankful to them and the hundreds of activists that came out to deliver this message. This wasn't the campaign Labour expected, and Keir Starmer and his Mayor Sadiq Khan need to sit up and listen to the Uxbridge and South Ruislip residents. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right, well, let's see if Danny Beales, the losing Labour candidate, is going to speak. Pretty defiant speech there by Steve Tuckwell, who's won by 500 votes. We're hearing now from the Green Party. We'll let them give their speeches there. I mean, Jonathan Reynolds, Sadiq Khan has lost Labour this election. He's right, isn't he, Steve Tuckwell, the new MP?
It was very close, very close.
Yeah, but you lost it.
And as I said at the beginning, it was always going to be one of the more challenging ones. If you haven't won a seat in the 97 result, you know, that's not the ideal terrain to be fighting on in this contest.
If you can't win here with a swing of 7.5% that was necessary, after Boris Johnson quit in Uxbridge and South Ruislip, you must be worried about how much progress Labour's making.
We're a few hours off potentially the biggest election swing in Labour's by-election history.
Well,
so
and then we'll change the tone, obviously, of the interview. But, you know...
I mean, you've got a situation where things are very tough for people right now, I would say, because of the mismanagement of the economy under the Conservative Party and the mortgages they're paying and the energy bills that they have got. And, of course, then when they're faced with a potential additional charge, that is going to be a difficult thing. And it gives the Conservative Party something to campaign against and do that. But that is a specific issue to that particular part of the United Kingdom. And, of course, what we want to get from the whole picture we get tonight is what is the national story overall.
I mean, it does sound, doesn't it, Chris, as if it was really down to the ultra-low emission zone and Sadiq Khan's policy. I mean, Steve Tuckwell himself said, wow, as if he couldn't really believe it. And he went on to say that Sadiq Khan lost the election. He and the Conservatives didn't win it, or hold it, I should say.
So, I mean, firstly, congratulations to Steve, because he's a good local candidate, and as well as the ULEZ stuff, there was a lot of local stuff that was threaded through the campaign, and he and his team deserved the victory they've got. Secondly, ULEZ was the defining issue. There are defining issues in every single by-election. There always will be, and there always has been. But thirdly, no one has a clue what Keir Starmer stands for, at all. He flip-flops around. He's playing one day with Just Stop Oil. He then can't, if he can't win a seat like this in a by-election night, he's not on a trajectory to win a general election. And actually, he's going to struggle all around the suburbs of London. Right.
Well, let's have a look at the result in more detail. There are the figures. The Conservative, Steve Tuckwell, is now the MP in Uxbridge and Ruislip because the Conservatives have held it. You can see there 13,965, nearly 500 majority, still very tight and very small. It'll be interesting to see what happens at the general election. Danny Beales, the Labour candidate, who definitely had been predicted to take this seat on 13,470. Everyone else way behind. It really was a two-horse race, and it really does feel as if the ultra-low emission zone has done it The point that Chris Heaton-Harris has made, John, about no one really knowing what Keir Starmer stands for, do you think that is becoming a problem?
Well, I think clearly in this seat, what was the problem was ULEZ, and the big question is that just a by-election thing that we talk about tonight, and then that is something that isn't a problem in the run-up to the general election, or is it a problem that there are a lot of places on the outskirts of London where people are more reliant on their cars, places that the Labour Party should be targeting at the next general election, places like Dartford, Harlow, where more people drive within kind of the London boundaries. And the big question for Labour is, do they stick with this policy or do they find some way of dropping it?
Should they stick with it?
Look, in Greater Manchester, where we had a similar thing, the government's put the legal duty on the local authorities and the mayor to tackle this. The scheme originally put forward didn't even cover private cars at all, but it was still very, very unpopular.
Right.
And essentially we've had to go back to government and ask them to give us...
Should there be a pause on this policy?
Well, the directly elected Mayor of London is responsible for this, and they've got to make the decisions on this. But I do go back to that point, that to put a legal duty onto people to make a decision where you've got a genuine problem, so 4,000 people a year dying from toxic air, and then to campaign against that, I think is really quite duplicitous from the Conservative Party. I really do.
Right. I mean, Munira, Blaise Bakish, the Liberal Democrat candidate, 526. That's pretty dim.
Blaise fought a great campaign, but this was always going to be a really difficult by-election for us, and we put our resources into where we knew we could win, which is Somerton and Frome, and I think we're about to get the result there, and hopefully you will see a big win for the Liberal Democrats. We're also putting our resources already into Mid-Bedfordshire when Nadine Dorries finally gets around to formally resigning her seat.
Labour's in second place.
All right.
So
we've marked your cards.
But I think what we're showing is in many parts of the country, we are the main challengers, and that's where we're doing well, and that's where we're focusing our resources.
All right, I'm just going to show you the detailed figures and graphics. You can see here, look how close it is. Conservatives have held it, 45% for the Conservatives, 44% for Labour, and as I say, everybody else way behind. We may be able to show you the swing or the change here. So the Conservatives down 7%, gain by Labour,
by-election where Labour threw everything at this by-election.
Yeah, all right.
That is a disastrous result for Labour, and it is because of both ULEZ, but what people saw in this by-election was Keir Starmer not sure what he should do because he stumbled across an unpopular issue.
All right. Well, let's have a look.
What he's going to do.
Well, let's have a look at the final figure. Let's have a look at the swing. 6.7%. Let's hold that figure in our heads. A swing from Conservative to Labour, to see what that would mean, how significant that swing is, whether it's enough at a national level.